Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our latest session of Watercolor Workshop featuring Mega Mera. My name is Susan Van Epps, and I'm the Division Manager for Programming and Community Engagement at the library. And I'll be your host today, and I'll be accepting all of your questions via the chat box in the bottom right corner of your screen. And I've already put a couple messages out there for you, so just take a look for that. It's my pleasure to introduce Mega Mera. She is an award-winning artist helping Loudoun residents become more confident painters by sharing her watercolor techniques for still life and realistic painting. And I see, Mega, that last time you showed people how to paint giraffes, and today you're going to show people how to paint a bird in a realistic style. So I'm looking forward to it. So if you're ready, welcome, and thank you for providing today's program.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Really appreciate, once again, LCPL for the opportunity that you give to all the artists in the area. I always love sharing my skills and whatever I know to the patrons or the artists who love to paint. And really excited for today's class. It is a very gloomy day, and I thought, yes, why not paint this beautiful picture? It's got a very nice atmosphere, and we'll try to paint this with a lot of fun, some interesting elements, some texture, and I'll explain everything as I go along the way. But just remember, before we start today, I'll give you time to draw the picture, and you already have the reference link, how to go about it. And if it's not perfect, it's completely fine, but just plan to enjoy the painting because you have given time. So just enjoy the time and don't worry about the results. Okay, so we'll get started. If you see already the reference link, you will find the drawing and the pictures in black and white and color. So I'll give you about like 6 to 8 minutes. It's a very simple drawing. You just have to make sure you draw these two, pillars or whatever this is, and the burn, and everything else will take care as we go and paint. Okay, so get started, and in about 8-10 minutes I'll get back to you about how to approach this painting. Okay, so good luck, everyone. Just have a good time. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. It's okay if you interrupt. Just raise your hand and Suzanne can help me read out the questions if you have. And yeah. So today we're also going to try, as you all draw, we're going to try something new today. I think I've tried this technique before. We're going to do a little bit with salt. I'm just trying to get some texture into the atmosphere, and we'll try as much as possible to include that. Okay. I will explain the colors, the color choices, everything as we go forward. For now, just try to get the simple drawing. And I'm sure some of you are new to watercolors. Maybe you're picking your brush for the first time in your life, or maybe you're picking it after many, many years. Either way, don't be discouraged or disappointed if your painting goes out of control today. Watercolors is a very different medium than acrylics and oil. You need a little bit of patience and practice to conquer this medium. It's not a difficult medium, it's a different medium. You just need some time, some planning, and this medium is yours. There is so much adventure in this medium that no two paintings can be same. What I painted 2 days ago, if I try to paint it again, it's going to be completely different. And that's the most adventurous or the magical part of watercolors. And I hope all of you can try some adventure today. If you have any questions regarding paints and paper and paint brushes, then I'll provide my email here and you can send me an email and I can provide you what I use. Um, Materials are very subjective. Everybody has their own style and what they are comfortable with. Some people are comfortable with thick brushes, some people are comfortable with thin brushes. So whatever is your style, it's going to be yours. But I can definitely give recommendations. I can send you the links where you can buy these materials for a cheaper price than what you get at Michael's or maybe even Amazon. These are sites that are dedicated to art supplies. And no matter what you paint, try to get good materials. Buy three paints, but buy good paints because the quality of your result really depends and it does matter with the quality of your materials. So it will differ a lot when you use student grade paints because they have a lot of fillers like chalks and everything. But if you use like nice artist grade paints like these are Daniel Smith watercolors, then they are going to give you a very fine finish and they're going to make your paintings look very transparent, which is the magical quality of watercolors. So definitely let me know if you have any questions regarding that. All right, about like 4 or 5 minutes more. I want to make sure everybody has a good amount of time to get the drawing in place. In this painting, even though the bird is like a main character of the painting, still the atmosphere is equally important here and the background is equally important here. So we're just going to plan to have some fun with the background as well and see what comes out of it. When you're drawing, I want to give you a tip. When you're drawing, instead of looking or imagining this as a bird, try to imagine it as a shape. Okay, if you see, this is almost like a circle. Okay, and this part can be like an oval. Same here, you can see two parallel lines here, right? And these never-ending parallel lines. So if you imagine it in the form of shape, what happens is you get clarity and your right brain starts to work, which is your artistic brain. Your left brain is actually something that labels, um, saying that this is a bird or this is sky. But your right brain, which is your artistic brain, your creative brain, is actually little different, and it understands mostly simple language of saying this is a triangle or this is a circle or this is a line, and instead of saying it colors, this is black and white. So that's how the right brain works. And if you try to imagine that, it becomes simpler because colors can be very, very distracting. And then you can be like, what is this color and that color? But if you try to use your right brain, then it becomes easier. Okay, so about a minute more and then we'll get started. I'll show you what colors I'm going to use in a minute. And yeah. And even for the next classes, I mean, I do a lot of workshops through LCPL. If you want to do a particular subject, then let me know. It's always fun to get ideas of what people want to paint. Someone asked tulips, I had the tulip. Someone asked animals, I had the giraffe. So it's always nice to hear what everybody is interested in doing. All right, it's 4:10 and we get started. Okay, so by now, I hope everybody has a drawing, and even if you don't, keep drawing. So as you can see, the picture is very, very simple. Very few colors, if you see. And mostly what the colors I see here is just warm, like yellows and browns and oranges and reds. And still we can add some colors to balance it. But most importantly, what we need to understand in a picture like this is how light or how dark are we going to go? Okay, and the easiest way to understand that is through a black and white picture. Okay, to understand how light or how dark, this is a simple way to get your understanding. And you can easily find out then how much darker or lighter you need to go here. It doesn't matter what color it is. What matters is how light or how dark this has to be to make it look three-dimensional. You want to look anything three-dimensional, especially in a landscape where you can see mountains behind and a river in the front and one mountain in the front, is through this game of values. If you do all of the same range, like a flat thing, they'll look flat. Your landscape will not look you cannot see the perspective and the distance there. So this is very important here. So keeping this in mind, we're going to choose how much water to use, okay, and how much paint to use. That's called the water to paint ratio. So we're going to keep that in mind. And for this part of the background, I'm going to use some salt. So if you don't have some salt, quickly run into the kitchen and get some. I have written this into the workshop details, but if you don't have, you can go now. I'll wait for everyone. But until then, let's gather our paint. I'm going to use some yellows. This is gold. If you don't have the same colors, completely fine. Don't get stressed. It's your painting. You can use any colors you like. Some burnt sienna, some brown. I'm going to use some blue, although it doesn't have. I want to have a little fun in the atmosphere, so I'm going to use some blue. You can use some red and some gold as well. I'm going to use some little bit of red as well. And because the bird has that. So yeah, we're going to go ahead with those colors. Okay. And yeah, I think that looks good. So let's get started. Okay. Now, a lot of people have the question like, should I do the bird first or should the atmosphere first? It really depends. Everybody has a different approach. And for me, I'm keeping keeping amount of time we have, I'm going to approach in a very practical way. So we're definitely going to start from top because I want to finish this part so that I have enough time for it to dry so that then I can get into the bird in the end. And while this is all drying, I'll get here and finish these parts. Okay. I actually can finish this whole background in one stretch, but then it'll take a lot of time to dry and you need at least a hair dryer to dry, which I don't think everybody has right now. So we're going to stick to one layer at a time. Okay. So I'm going to first wet this area, okay, with plain water and pick some colors that I'm going to add here. Okay. I'm going to just use some blue, whatever colors you want. Just try to have some fun in the background. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing. Okay. So it's important that you make some part of your painting yours. Okay, and because it's light, I'm going to keep it very diluted, which means more water and less paint. And Yeah, maybe a bit of the red that I have. Okay. Now I'm going to just, oops, lot of water. Wet this area. Okay. If a little bit of it gets into the bird, it's totally fine because those colors are all going to mingle into the bird as well. So I'm not too worried about it. In fact, you can go ahead and actually wet that as well. It's fine. I'm just not going to put a lot of color there, but it's fine if it merges with the background, okay? Timing in watercolors is very, very important because once this paper starts to dry and if you are still struggling to mix your paint, that paper is going to start drying. And when you put a dry stroke on a dry paper, you'll get a dry streak, right? So in watercolors, if you really want smooth, really smooth strokes, then you need to plan. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and just dabble some color wherever I like. I'm not following any rules, absolutely no rules. Just have fun. I did mix up a little bit of orange here. I'm going to just go ahead and you can see I'm adding blue, I'm adding gold, I'm adding brown. Okay. Just keeping it diluted so that we get a very, very thin or a very diluted layer here. Okay. While this is wet, I'm going to take some salt and just sprinkle in just a few areas. Okay. You don't have to cover the whole painting with salt. Just having some fun here, and I'm going to leave it. You can use any salt you have. I actually have the kosher one. It's got a little bit of thick texture. Use whatever you have. Okay. I'll give a minute so that everybody can catch up with this thing and then move on to the next layer. Okay. Sometimes I can go a bit fast. So if I am fast, please let me know. Please remind me. I'm super guilty of that because I always have this thing of trying to complete the painting on time, but definitely remind me. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it now. I don't want to fiddle with it too much. Okay. While this dries, you can almost start planning in your brain what are you going to approach next. Okay, because watercolors take time to dry. You can work in small sections so that you can still keep moving with the painting. Okay, I paint at least 2 to 3 paintings together so that if one is drying, the other I can start. It also keeps my mind fresh. Sometimes I use a hair dryer. You can use a hair dryer. Just don't keep it too close to your paper when you're trying to dry it. Okay. Next, I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. Trying to keep the atmosphere throughout the painting. Okay. So you can use the similar colors here. I'm going to leave some gap where you can see this white rope here, or the white area where there is not enough paint. Now, a lot of people ask me, can I use white paint? Well, you can use, but traditionally in watercolors, you don't use white paint. Your white of your paper is the white paint. Okay, it looks natural, it looks very transparent, it's got that delicate feel. If you use white paint, it looks very thick and it looks very unnatural. Sometimes I do use it in moderate quantities, but usually I leave it. Once again, continuing with the atmosphere. I'm keeping it really light. Because like I said, some of the other parts are going to be dark. And just continue. Remember, if you think it's really light, you can always go ahead and add. But if you add a lot of color right from the beginning, it's really hard to remove. So keep it light. Also because watercolors dry lighter. So you might feel that I thought I used enough color, but it looks really light. So yes, they do dry lighter. And it's important that you take some time to see how much color you're using. Okay, I'll wait for a minute so that you can catch up and then move on to the next layer. Okay. Any questions, please, please, please let me know. It's always nice to have a conversation so that I don't feel that I'm talking to the walls. It's nice to hear from people.
Meg, I'll just let you know, so far I don't have any questions. I did receive one suggestion, though, for future sessions.
Yeah.
And that was to do a painting of water or the ocean.
Water or ocean. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll make a note. Yeah, with summer approaching, I know everybody wants to be at the beach. Okay, I'm going to continue with same technique with this area and continue.
Mega, one person wants to know if they should be adding the salt now. Can you just hit that one more time, maybe? Explain the salt.
Yes. Yeah, sure. So when you apply color, okay, that's the time you immediately add salt. Now, if you wait too long, that salt might not stick on it. Okay, so just for the sake of showing you when to add, I can add this here again. I wasn't planning, but I'll show you two again. Okay, so I'm wetting this area now. Okay, and let me add some color. So what the salt does is it takes away some of the color. It just removes it from that area. So you get a very nice effect. And see, here I already have, I have some paint here. I'm going to add it here and maybe some little bit of here. Okay. And I know maybe some of you already have a question. When do I remove this salt? Well, again, it depends what kind of effect you want to get. You can remove it after some time. If you leave it for too long, the texture is going to be very different. I am going to wait a little more because it's too wet right now. Okay. So it's again a very personal choice of what you are trying to achieve, what kind of texture you're trying to achieve out of it. Like, for example, you can do this technique on rocks. at that point you need more texture. So maybe you'll leave it for a longer time. Okay. This is how you can play with salt and see how it behaves. It's going to behave very differently for everyone because everybody has a different timing. Okay. I still feel it's too early to remove it. It's too wet. So we'll leave it right away. Next year again, I'm going to wet this area. And in fact, if you all have done the painting today or even any previous paintings, feel free to send it to me. A lot of people actually email me, which is always so nice to see what people, they even watch the recorded sessions, which is so nice because I really feel that, you know, all the hard work that the library library people do, people actually go back and actually watch those videos. So it's almost like a very nice feedback when you see that, okay, someone tried the painting by watching those videos. It just feels great.
Megan, one person said that they've tried the salt, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Any ideas for why that would be?
There could be some reasons. Maybe the paint is too diluted. In that case, it may not show much. I don't know if you can see my painting here. You can see some of the color just pushed away. Okay, it just pushed away. Let me show you maybe on a small place. Right. I can show you one small thing. So if I apply a lot of paint here, okay, you can see that the salt, as soon as I put salt, it'll start to move away some of the paint. Give it a few minutes or a few seconds, it'll start to, and let this dry, and I'll show you what comes out of it. Okay, so there are certain ways how you can make it work. In my case, if you see, it is very diffused feeling, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want a lot. I can show you the painting that I painted before. If you see, this has the diffused effect. Okay. So here we are, and I'll give you guys a minute to catch up, and then we'll paint these areas, okay, these shapes. I'm going to try to speak everything in terms of shapes so that it's simple to follow. And in the end, we'll come to the bird. Okay. One more thing, what I want to talk about salt is, now, once you have put the salt here, there is no point going and adding more paint to it because the effect will be gone. So salt, if you want some texture through salt, then that would be the last step. Okay, maybe you can do this. You can apply 6, 7 layers of paint, and the last layer of paint, you can add some salt if that's what you're planning. But after taking off the salt, if I add more paint again, it's going to lose the whole reason for adding salt. Okay, so this is the last kind of texture that I'm looking for. Let me see if I can remove some. Okay, still wet, so I'm going to wait a little more. Next, I'm going to start with this area. And again, I'm going to paint it with 2, 3 colors, mostly keeping it very warm almost orange or a reddish, brownish color. Okay. I may not wet this area. I'm just going to take some paint and start painting. So just in a minute. Okay. Okay, since I see my black and white picture, this area is dark. So I'm going to add more paint and less water, okay? And again, I may have to go back and add a little more layer of paint, but it depends how much once it dries. And as I come at the bottom, I see there is more paint than, oops, sorry, than on the top. Okay. Let that dry. Don't fiddle with it. As much as possible, once you put paint, if it's starting to dry, it's not a good idea to go back and fiddle with that area. If it's still wet, maybe you can add some paint if that's what you're planning. But no, it's still quite wet. Okay, I'm going to move forward with the other shape. That was too dark. And the colors I'm using is almost like a red and a brown mix. Okay, I just have it next to my palette and then just take both on my brush and then just put it on the paper. So that's almost like I'm mixing it on my paper instead of mixing it on my palette. Both methods are fine. There is no rule. Some people prefer it on the paper, some people prefer it on the palette. Both give different results. Okay, I think it's time to stop here so that I don't mess this area. Let's see if this area is okay. Maybe a minute and then this part will be dry. In the meantime, I can see if any other area needs a little bit of darkening. Maybe here I feel some warmth. Okay, I think this is good. Next, I think I can define a few of these boundaries so that, you know, you feel that there is some separation here. So I'm just taking a little of dark paint, almost like brown or red here, and defining some of the boundaries here. You don't have to completely draw a line, just a few. And the reason I'm doing this now is because the other areas are wet. And like I said, I plan in a way that you can keep moving with the painting without needing to wait. Okay. Okay. We'll let these two big shapes dry and move on with the bird. I don't think I can still remove the salt, but this area is dry. I'm going to take a small brush now because the shape is small. So I'm going to use a smaller brush. And I'm going to use some orange here. You can mix your own orange, take some yellow and take some red. Okay. And put on this, the body here. Okay. Coming to the front part here, I'm going to use the same orange, but a little more of added red, almost like a very dark orange. Don't worry if you can't catch up with my speed. You will get time. I think I added a bit too much of red, but that's okay. Okay. And just wait for a minute so that when this dries, I can finish the fur here. Okay. And add some more darks. In the meanwhile, this is not dry, so it's okay. We'll wait for like 5 minutes because we do have time. We don't have much. We just have the bird and we just have a little more extra layers to cover here. Any questions? Let me know. Any doubts? And at this point, if your painting is not looking good, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Most of the paintings, until they're done, almost 80–85%, they don't look good. Even now, sometimes I get that feeling that why did you even start this painting? But when you try to finish it, that's when they all come together. So be patient. And because you're so close to your painting, you are always criticizing it. But actually, if you just take a picture of it, send it to someone, and you'll be wowed, like I'm sure you must have done a better job, a good job than you think. So don't be too critical. Keep painting. That's the only way to get better. If you really love painting or anything you like, the only way to get better is doing consistently. I paint every single day, no matter what. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's more, but I make sure that my brushes are always wet. So that's the thing you need to follow. And let's see what happened to the salt here. Look, it diffused, right? And I know right now they're wet, so if I'm trying to remove it, it's smudging everything. But if you leave this for some time, it's going to give a very beautiful effect. So now you can see you need to add a little bit of extra paint for it to really show. And different salt will show different texture.
Mega, I have a question that's come in.
Yeah.
One person wants to know, she said the paint doesn't seem to be covering the pencil markings. Is that okay?
Good question. Yes. Now, I know I drew it really dark, so I have a lot of pencil marks, but honestly, pencil marks are completely fine in a painting. It is the part of your painting. And for example, if you're trying to compete into a competition or something and you're worried that your pencil marks are shown, then you might be disqualified or not win. Not true at all. I have won many awards for paintings that still show pencil marks. So nobody really cares about the pencil marks. And remember, the drawing is part of your painting. So I know, but some people like it, some people don't like it. So it's again a personal choice. Try to keep it not too dark. And sometimes, even after you have painted, you can remove a little bit of it. But mostly when you put a layer of paint on it, it's hard to remove a pencil mark. So either lighten it early or just like I said, live with it. But it's completely fine. Pencil marks are totally fine. All my paintings have pencil marks. They're light, but they have. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to this area. It's a bit dry now. So what I'm going to do here is, if you see, it's got some really dark areas. And I'm going to do something called as dry brush technique. What it means is I'm going to wipe most of the moisture from my brush, take some paint, and try to, if you see, I'm getting these dry streaks, and also you can hear noise, right? There's paint and hardly any moisture. So I'm trying to do this now here. I'm going to take some nice dark paint, almost like a dark brown mixed in burnt sienna or red. It has to be darker than this area. Okay, that's the rule. And I take a small scrap paper and first practice a little bit. Yeah, I like this. Okay. And if you see, just a little bit of texture. Because it's wood. So I'm giving it some texture. Okay. Okay, so this is good. We can move on to the next one as well. Again, do the same thing. Less paint, sorry, less moisture, less water actually, and try to give it some texture.
Mega, you're starting with a dry brush though, correct?
Yes, it's a dry brush. It has very little moisture. Try to take away all the moisture on your cloth or paper towel or whatever you're using. And always a good idea to use a little bit of scrap paper to see how it might look when you actually put the stroke. That's good enough. Yeah. So we're almost done with this part actually. I just feel I need to define one or two small areas here. Okay. Once you're done with this, we can move on to the bird. Okay. And if you see, it's got some dark brown, kind of very dark brown feathers. And I'm just going to use some dark brown that I have on my palette. And with a smaller brush, I'm going to make some fine details here. Try to do details in the end because sometimes you need to add more color. Okay. And I can also mix a bit of red into this dark brown so that it shows some variation. I'm going to keep the paint thick because it's detailing and it's dark. If your brown is not dark enough, add some blue to it. It's going to become dark. I prefer not to use blacks that is out of the tubes because they're very flat, especially in watercolors. Some artists do use them. It's a personal choice again. I try to mix my own blacks. Just covering this empty area with some brown. You can see that as the area is small, smaller brushes are more useful. Okay, so this is how I usually plan my painting, that smaller areas need smaller brushes, bigger areas need bigger brushes. But I try to work in small areas so that I'm not overwhelmed. And if you're planning to go into a big area immediately with a larger brush, then you plan. Planning is very, very important. You need to plan what you paint you're going to use. You need to plan the direction you're going to use, everything. Okay. And just to give a little more warmth, I'm going to take some orange. Apply in these areas. Okay. The salt is dry here, so I just scraped it off. And some just dry, some dark areas. Try to remove the salt. Yeah, most of it is dry. Some did not. That's okay. The best is not to leave the salt for more than a couple of hours. Don't leave it for 2 days. It will really get stuck there and it's going to give you a very hard texture. It's okay if you're doing it for rocks. It will give you a beautiful texture, but not for something else if you're looking for a softer feel. Okay, so you can see now it's got this beautiful diffuse feeling here, right? And we almost changed so much from what the photograph is. Now, even though I paint in realistic style, I like to add some colors. I like to change it a little bit so that it looks like I have put in some effort and some thought of my own style into it. You can paint it exactly as it is, but remember, don't try to copy a picture. Try to see what it actually makes you feel. So for me, it even though the mood is very gloomy, I still like to add some colors. Even if it's blue, it's fine, but I like it. So I think that's it for today. And yeah, we are done with the painting. And yeah, we still have a few more minutes, so keep painting. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Megha, thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions from the audience just yet, but we'll see if anybody has any as they close out. And I again put the link out there for people to let them know that we do have a YouTube channel now where we're posting these after they've been recorded.
Oh,
so if anybody missed anything, they can go back and watch it again.
Right. And I'm just putting my email. If anybody has any questions or want to send me their painting, then here is my email. I put it in the chat.
Yep, everybody's got that.
Okay.
Very good. Well, all right. I think, see, any final call on questions? If not, I guess we are. Oh, let's see. A couple people just saying thank you very much. And
Okay.
oh, someone wants to know if the bird was painted in, let's see, painted in wet paper. Was the bird painted in wet paper?
It was almost dry, I would say. It was not 100% dry, but almost dry. So yeah, you can see that, some of it is actually mingled into it. But you can paint the way you like, wet on wet or just dry.
Okay, well, again, on behalf of the library, thank you so much, Megha. This was really wonderful. I hope everybody had a good time. I know I had a good time just watching. I wish I could have been painting, but maybe I'll do that after the recording is posted in YouTube. I did draw a picture of a bird, though.
Oh, nice.
Which was probably the most relaxing moment of my week right there. So I'll go back and paint later. So thank you again. I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Whoever, if any mothers are painting today, then yes, have fun. Have a great weekend.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you again soon.